Started. What's up, people? HayStack Mujer TV. I am your host, Rosara Figueroa Mendoza, Rosa Salvaje, and we have a guest today. CeazTheDay.
How's
Take
it going?
it away, girl.
I just remembered we have the same last name.
Mendoza?
Yeah,
Yep.
what the heck?
That's
We
right.
could be related.
Maybe
I don't know.
cousins or something. Who knows?
Oh, man.
Javier Mendoza, the gangster, whoever that terrorist guy is.
Yeah.
Maybe
I hope not.
There's a connection, perhaps.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so we have CeazTheDay here. So he is an artist and he is perhaps upcoming actor working on it. So he's here to tell us more about his work and for y'all to learn about him. We're actually here in his studio and he can tell you more about that.
Cool art studio. Yeah, I just got this art studio with my buddy Dario, and it's been quite a journey. A year ago, we were in Oaxaca, Mexico. I went on a trip with him, and we were over there, and just like the vibe, like finally saw with my eyes, like it's possible to live off of your art. So like that was like mind opening for myself, and we just like we were like, man, I want to get a studio. And a year later, here we are. Like it kind of happened, and it wasn't something that we were actively working towards. Well, we were without really knowing it. Like we were both like making moves, like getting that job to be able to afford this, but like everything just kind of aligned, and like it's crazy how like things can align if you visualize or like put that out there.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm big on visualizing. Like I visualize.
Have you ever made a vision board?
I have not. Like everything just kind of like, and that's my like something I want to try, like writing stuff down and like vision board. But like usually I just like in my head like.
Yeah, for sure. I believe that. I was talking to somebody and she was. She wants to go to the Grammys. She wants to get a Chanel, I don't know what, but she was like, I'm already like envisioning like how you have to like be that realistic. Like you have to really think about texture and color and what is it that thing that you want so that you could actually manifest it and make it happen.
Yeah.
It's really cool. So you have your studio now. Was there anything out there in particular in Oaxaca that you felt, like what is it that you saw that you're like, oh, there's actual people that are living off their art? Was there a person in particular? Was it just art, all the art, or what was it?
Well, there's a lot of art because when the time we went, there was like La Feria Guelaguetza and Feria de Mezcal. So there was just like, and Oaxaca's very like touristic. So like there was a lot of like tourism, and like Dario introduced me to some friends over there. Off the top of my head, one artist's name is Yeska. He's awesome, and he has a studio out there. So I was able to like hang out with like him and amongst other artists that he was like cool with, and like he took us around. So like it was nice to like get in the life of like there versus just like being a like full on tourist, But I kind of like saw what he was doing, and like. He's gone to like Europe. He goes to Europe and like sells art all over the world. So that like him specifically, I would say like was an inspiration. But definitely a lot of other people whose like names that I can't remember right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, for sure. That's amazing, and I feel like it's really inspiring to, like you're saying, like to actually see that it's possible, right?
Yeah.
To be able to live that lifestyle, and like there's no reason why any of us cannot travel the world doing what we love. But it's just a matter of finding the pathway to be able to make it happen, Sometimes it's really difficult to do that. So you primarily do, some of the art that I've seen that you have on Instagram is doing perhaps like walls and then sometimes canvases. Like what's your, like when did you start doing art? You said, we were talking before that you started doing art when you were pretty young,
Pretty young, yeah.
So if you can walk us a little bit more through that journey and how that's been.
Oh man, my artistic journey, like apparently, yeah, like I was telling you earlier, like I made friends by like drawing them stuff during lunch. And then like what I actually remember though is like just like enjoying art class, and like it's just like so meditative for me, like just like nothing matters. I'm like super in the zone, and like all my worries just like go away. Like specifically with like ceramics, like I really enjoyed that. I remember like taking like an art class and being like, I got the chance to be mentored by a teacher, like a little bit extra after school, because we had like a very like tight school. and like so I remember like those classes, like it was like a couple, maybe 2 or 3, but like shadowing and kind of like work like that. But then like in high school, so like my siblings and I used to go to a math program in the summer.
What is it called?
We went to like MEI, AEI with Mr. and Mrs. Chavez. So we would go to these math programs to kind of like get ahead. And during one of those like programs, one of those summers, like, and these are for like people who want to need math credits or whatever it really is, or you want to get ahead. So it was like all types of people that we were able to meet. But my brother met someone who did graffiti, and he was showing him his kind of like old English inspired graffiti. And my brother showed me like his graffiti, and like I got hooked. I got hooked on graffiti. So like high school.
How old were you?
Maybe like when I was introduced to it, maybe like 12. But I didn't start like doing like graffiti till like high school, whatever age that is, 15, I think. Or,
like 14.
Yeah, 14. But my hustle was like I would do backpacks. I would graffiti people's backpacks like with their name, and so like I got started, and then after started like $20 a backpack, and like started getting like some profit at least to buy art supplies, you know. So like I did a lot of that like in high school, and then like just like painting in my backyard, like, but like I didn't have money to like spray paint's expensive, so that kind of like ended up taking a back seat. I tried to do like computer art stuff, so graphic design I got into in high school. And this is when I liked Kid Cudi, because like I would just listen to his music and zone out like with graphic design in high school. So I did some like freelance with graphic design, like very introverted at the time, so like could not sell like my work for like I could not, like it was hard for me to work with people, and like just a lot of things you got to learn as an artist when you're growing up, like not being entitled, like being patient, and kind of like just even like the client's always right, like, you know, like not being too attached to the art, and like it's a job, like, you know, just do what they want. And
maybe it's hard to do that because that's your personal, that's your baby. Yeah. Like, come on, how are you not gonna get attached? But
so that was like that was quite a journey too. And then I got hooked on music production. I started making beats. So when my brother got a laptop, started messing on GarageBand, and then that kind of like led to a job later on, interested at Guitar Center, and I like picked up more instruments there. I went to Foothill College, and I always wanted to like try acting, and I did theater for 2 years there. So then I did a bunch of like theater acting, and just like was like all over the place, and decided like, okay, I need a like stable job so I can like fund my creative ventures. So that's kind of like the path that I've taken, you know, like my art has like been a slow process, but now I feel like it's I'm where I like envisioned myself a long time ago. So hopefully, like, you know, I'm like being more consistent with art.
That's really interesting because you know, we were talking earlier about how sometimes we get really impatient, right, with the process, and like, but sometimes you just have to kind of let it flow and come to you, you know, and it takes time. And so it sounds like, you know, you're not just a visual artist, you also act, and you also are into music, right? And so there's this a lot of I'm hearing like what do they say when you go to school, like well-rounded, right? Like being able to be like have those different dimensions to you, so that you have the visual aspect, but then you also have the sonic aspect, right? Like musically, but then you also have this aspect of actually being able to act and things like that. So I think that's I've been thinking a lot about how, like, what it takes to make it, you know, to get to your dreams, and it's like sometimes you need all of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So talking about your acting, like, how's that been? And, you know, we talked earlier about how you were in San Pan, right? And,
yeah, so I was in my brother's film San Pan. That's JMF Films, I think is his name, or Suave Radio on Instagram. But that was amazing. That was a great experience. He had 2 weeks, so like they hit him up. Raw Artists SF, they hit him up to be part of like the film. They had looked at his Instagram, and they were digging his like little Instagram videos that he was doing. So he agreed to it, but he had no project at the time. So he had like a month to do it, to execute this. And like, you know, sometimes when you just get that pressure, like you really get inspired, and like this is kind of like what happened. And everyone just kind of like worked together to like make this whole like vision come true. So he in this month, like half of that month, like he spent like writing the script. And like I would just like, you know, try to like push him. He would bounce ideas off of everybody. He's a very like more extrovert person, so he's like feeds off of people's energy, and that's kind of like his whole like thing, the whole project molded. So then we executed it in 2 months. We filmed Sanpan, and like the message was like basically like fuck fear, you know, like don't be scared, like, you know, don't regret it. And my character was like this pretty like out there silly guy, kind of influencing another character to like push himself to like, you know, try things or like be out there and do what he wants to do.
Remind me of your character's name?
My character's name was Julius.
Julius.
Yeah.
That guy was crazy.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I was gonna, yeah, what was that process like? Like, how different is that character from who you actually are? You know, what was your inspiration for that character?
Man, I was just like pretty juiced, because I hadn't been able to apply my acting training until then. After like, you know, I had taken a hiatus, maybe like got into other stuff, or actually was really into the training program. I was doing like an IT training program, so like everything artistic took a back seat, and like it was tough. Like if it wasn't for like the community people I had there at Year Up, I wouldn't have made it, because like not having a creative outlet is depressing. Damn. It's fucking depressing. But like, yeah, the Julius character, I just little things like get into character. Like I got like a haircut that he would get, and then like, so like when I looked myself, like I would become this like character more and more, and like just like kind of like pushing yourself and to like put yourself in someone else's shoes. So Julius is very like out there and doesn't give a fuck. So like I would do like little things, kind of like, I guess you could say like method acting in my real life, to like put myself in like situations that like me.
What was that process like?
Like it was fun.
Did you let people know, hey, I'm in character?
Nah, not a lot of times.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's like and it's not even that crazy, but like, you know, like I wouldn't do like, maybe like I wouldn't go up and talk to like a random person. Like that's harder. It has been hard for me, like personally, but like Julius, like that's easy for him. So like, you know, you just kind of have to like separate yourself from the character.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, it's.
Ahorita pensé de, you've seen Fight Club? Yeah. So I mean, that guy's crazy.
That guy's
right?
crazy.
Tyler Durden.
Yeah.
What the fuck? He just does whatever he wants, and it's like, I think that there's a lot of, in that movie, you know, there's a lot of that too, like letting go of what you're supposed to be and just being who you actually are, right? It's a, you know, going back to the theme of the movie, like fuck fear, like that's a real thing, you know, like what would you do without fear? That's something that my godmother says all the time, right? So it's like, or my cousin too, like, you know, what would you do without fear? Like you could really live, you really are the master of your own life, and you can create whatever you want. So then how is it, like, what do you want to create, you know, like without having that block you? So it's really cool, you know, learning about your process and your journey. Yeah,
and it's great for people to even like recognize that, because some people don't even realize that they're being stopped by themselves for fear or whatever. Yeah.
Right. And sometimes it's like the voices of other people, right? Like maybe the grown-ups that we had in our lives when we were little, and they had their own fears and they projected it onto us, and so we kind of maybe took on a lot of the things that maybe our parents were afraid of, that we weren't necessarily afraid of, but you know, they kind of.
I think for me too, like speaking on like the whole like parents, like my parents are immigrants, like they immigrated here. Like first of all, they didn't have time to like experience some of the things that our generation experiences, anxieties, depressions, or any other mental disorders, or let alone like have the time to think about what career or artistic thing they want to pursue. Like they didn't have that luxury. They just like were surviving. So like, you know, I feel like our generation has a lot of can have a lot of pressures to be a doctor, be a lawyer.
Yeah,
like things that like they see as part of like the American dream. So I think that's something that conflicted me a lot when I was like growing up. Like I thought I had to be like this person, and like it just like it wasn't who I was. So it was really difficult. I spent a lot of years in school that like like I didn't like really use because I took a different route, But I'm happy where I'm at now, and everybody has their own journey, and it's kind of it's hard to like sometimes for our generation, I feel.
No, I hear you, but I could attest to that with having immigrant parents, right? Like there's pressure that comes with, and the good thing is that my parents were really supportive of my brother and I. He did theater arts at San Francisco State.
Cool,
so
right on.
He had that like aspect of him, right? And myself, I did sociology, so that we didn't have this space of like you have to be something.
Yeah.
They were more like whatever you do as long as you're happy, right? So it was really nice to have that, but at the same time I could resonate with what you're saying about our parents not having the chance to live out their dreams.
Yeah.
My dad was just surviving. Like,
exactly.
He wanted to be a lawyer according to him, but he never really had a chance to do that. My mom wanted to be a social worker. She didn't have a chance to do that. They were kind of just, trying to provide for us, right?
Yeah.
Like put a roof over our head and buy food and just work and stuff like that. So that's a story that's really important, right? And
I think so. Yeah.
We were talking earlier about Mexican Americans and how like sometimes there's a void in like being able to hear stories from us that are by us, right?
Yeah.
I feel like, and I've put this out there before, but like we lost Richie Valens, right? Like Bamba, we lost Selena. So it's like, where are the storytellers that could actually, we don't have, I feel like they're coming now, but like I didn't really have a lot growing up, like to be able to look up to and say, okay, cool, that person looks like me. They're singing, they're dancing, they're whatever. Like I can be like that, So,
or even just people that are like just like one step ahead that like you can see like, oh, like I can get there, Like some people were just like I could never like be an artist. I could never like make money off of art. Like that's silly. Like
that's what you think, but it's possible,
right?
It's so
like
possible. We can do this. So for you, like, what are some of the like perhaps musicians or you brought up visual artists from Oaxaca, but like other visual artists that inspired you to really want to move towards that lifestyle of like being able to be a creative, but then figuring out, okay, well, how do you make money and sustain yourself while being a creative, right?
Like, man, I would say like maybe like artists who are like maybe like in the medium of like acrylic or graffiti or like building things. I would say like I've always been into is like artists that are involved in hip hop. Like that's something that I really gravitate to. Like there's that artist like just like hip hop people will associate a certain like type of art with hip hop, and like,
I feel like like who listens to hip hop because like there's a certain vibe that you pick up on certain people, like the way they talk, maybe the way they dress, like you could like you can kind of thread together, like you can perhaps feel more comfortable, right, with people that like maybe listen to hip hop or are in that world.
Yeah.
So it kind of sounds like you gravitated towards people that have been within that realm, right?
Yeah, I definitely have. So some like graphic design artists to some sculptures to like very early on, like a lot of graffiti artists. I was into a lot of graffiti artists. So graffiti and hip hop, pretty much go hand in hand. And they kind of like branched out and did their own things. So like and tried new things and just like I find really cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you grew up here in San Jose, right?
Yeah, born and raised in San Jose. Yeah.
What was that like?
It was very interesting. I feel like we grew up pretty sheltered at a young age. We went to River Glen and Willow Glen, so it was a bilingual immersion program. But my parents were like super dedicated like to us, like so we would go to when we went to school from kinder to 8th grade, and like after school was say at the after school program. After the after school program, we would go to soccer practice. Then we would go home and eat, sleep, do your homework, and do it again for 8 years. And then my freshman year, I went to DCP, which is like a downtown like charter school, and man, it was like a culture shock.
Is it still there?
I'm not sure. I think they changed it.
I might have heard that they changed it.
And I think I saw it somewhere else. I was like, oh, what the, like, yeah. So like, I went there, and that was like crazy because I met different types of people from everywhere, economically, socially, whatever. And then after like my first year though, I took the like public transportation, like something I had never done before. And then I moved to my neighborhood school, which was Mount Pleasant, and I went there like for the rest of high school, and that was also like, all different people that I didn't know. Like they actually, like, they grew up with each other in the neighborhood, but like this was all new to me. So
then you went to Mount Pleasant High School. So you were at DCP for
1 year.
Oh, and then you went to Mount Pleasant.
Yeah,
okay.
3 years.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Cool.
That's where I met Dario, who has a studio with me.
Awesome, dude. So so you've had the studio for how long?
A little over a month. I want to say a month and a half. Yeah.
So what's your hope for the studio, for the space?
I think like our goal really is to just like have it pay itself. Like financially is like, that's the goal. Just like have it pay itself. And just like we were talking earlier, you were mentioning like space is a big thing. So that's like really like to be able to like maintain this space is kind of like the goal, at least for me, and just like put it out there for other people to use. Other people can come hang out. This is a like safe space. Do art here or have conversations, like anything really, collaboration. So that's kind of like
awesome. So it's called Citadel Art Studio.
Yeah, Citadel Art Studios.
Citadel. So why Citadel?
I think my cousin had looked this up the other day. I think it means like a fortress or something. So this is a community of artists. All of these rooms are little art rooms. So like different people, and like it's like all of this. There's like a warehouse in the middle, and there's more art studios back there. So.
That's tight. Very, very cool.
Yeah, I haven't met much people here. We met one person that's next door, 407. He's awesome. Like his name is Carlos. And have you seen that? I don't know if you're around like Alum Rock and White.
Not recently.
Not really. Okay. Yeah, he did a mural there like last I saw. But like we went over there a few days ago, and I was mind blown. But like the art is like. Wow, yeah.
Very, very cool. Cool.
Yeah.
How's it feeling, having been born and raised in San Jose, and perhaps the changes that are taking place in terms of Google's buying space and gentrification is here, and people being upset, right? Like there's for lack of a better word, blue donuts, right? That are on Santa Clara, which turns into the Alameda, and it's under the overpass. It's going toward the Shark Tank, and so hearing people from the community, because I've been to Debug, and they have their editorial meetings every Tuesday at 5:30, and so hearing people from the community that are from San Jose being upset that it's like, what is that? Like,
yes,
that doesn't represent
yes. So, when they put that up, everyone was just like, what the fuck is this? Right. And like the way they did it.
Who's the artist?
It was like some construction workers, like they just said, do this, and like they just like put tape and made a circle, spray painted that, made a smaller circle, and spray painted that. Like it wasn't anybody really from the community, nor didn't seem like it. So like I totally like I'm on that same page. Like I remember when it happened too. We were just like. There could have been like something like completely different, like done with this, and I don't know what is it? Is it people like what is it like? Who's not advocating for the community? That's like instead having like them do that project, instead of like whoever like the project manager or was for that. Like why didn't they search the community and really do something for San Jose instead of something like that was like quick and cheap maybe, or I don't know what the deal with that was. I really don't know. That's interesting. Like I would like to get that information as well.
Yeah.
That's a story
because
right
there's so many artists in San Jose that how could you do blue donuts? Like people feel insulted.
Yeah,
I didn't think of it in that way because I'm not from San Jose. But like, perhaps thinking about it like from being from Hayward and somebody did that shit and it's like, what the hell is this? Like, it's not representative of all of the community.
Yeah, that's been there for a while too.
Yeah.
So it wasn't new. But going back to your question, for me personally, it's very conflicting because I have one foot in the tech world and one foot like with my people. So like I am gentrifying and being gentrified at the same time, So it's like it's very like it's a weird thing, and like I feel guilt. And I also feel like, what am I supposed to do? I need to, like, make a living, At the end of the day, I just feel like it really comes down to giving back to the community. Like Google, if you're going to move in here, like, what are you going to do for the community? Like, I'm seeing more and more people, like, on the street every day, And, like what are they doing for San Jose people? And I think that's, like, really what it stems what it really comes down to, like if you're going to be a part of something, you need to give back. It's something I actually I would say like a metaphor or simile, kind of like related. Like I think I saw something where they were interviewing like rappers, and like they were interviewing rappers that are like white, and like how people feel about them getting into rap and stuff. And they were saying like kind of like the same thing. It really or like kind of getting in that space that doesn't really belong to them, or so they say. And like they kind of like said the same thing. Like it just like comes down to like giving back to the community and like being a part of it, like really being a part of it, not just being a culture vulture. And they said like Eminem as an example, who he used his platform to put on other artists. He's used his platform to speak against Trump. He used his platform to advocate for others. So like they kind of used him as an example, and like that's kind of like I understood. I was like, okay, that's kind of how I feel like the tech companies like should be. Like what are they doing? And like the city seems to be is upset because Google promised like to do all these things, housing and whatnot, but they're not helping with anything.
Yeah, dude, I hear you. And I think that San Jose is an example of that advanced vision of like what it could be like, right? Like Google really coming in. I feel like we're just starting to feel those effects in Hayward, but it still hurts, but it's not as bad, but it's still like we kind of see the forecast of what it could be, right?
Yeah.
Just by seeing the examples of San Jose, Oakland, and San Francisco. And so it's been really interesting kind of trying to grapple with that and understanding that people are, I mean, what's the fine line between making money and being a business person and really watching out for yourself and getting your money, but then also being there for the community, right? And that could be kind of difficult sometimes to find that balance. But bringing it back to what you were saying, I mean, just being able to think about the people that were originally here. I mean, even when you think about like the people in Hayward or just the people in this area that have been here are the Ohlone people. So like being able to honor their memory and understanding that they were also run off their land, right? And so just kind of like, bringing it back to that, because you could say like, for example, okay, this used to be Mexico and, we didn't cross the border crossed us. It's like, okay, let's acknowledge that. And then let's acknowledge like Native American people. Let's acknowledge that like, people like the Spaniards came and they, like a whole bunch of bad shit happened. It's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, and you were saying being the gentrifier and the gentrified, right?
Yeah.
And I think that as a Mexican American person, you do have to deal with that reality that you're indigenous, you're Spanish, you are Mexican, and then possibly you're African, like me. That's something that I'm kind of grappling with, right? Just because like I have curly hair, right? And like curly hair comes from nowhere else other than African people. So then being able to understand what it means to be Mexican American and how you have all these different aspects. You could be both the conquered and the conqueror. So it just really depends on the blood.
Yeah, it's
crazy.
I don't know, like it's interesting because I even took like a 23andMe test.
Oh yeah.
It literally came down 50% like Spanish from over there and 50% native.
Damn.
So it's like,
you're right in the middle.
Yeah, and then like you also like feel like when I'm here, people will look at me, and I have to acknowledge like not as much as other like of people who are like me, like I think I'm maybe like a lighter complexion, so I don't just like Mexican Americans who are more like lighter skin, they don't experience the same thing as Mexican Americans with darker skin. And I feel like I tend to fall more on the like side of not experiencing like more of the negative things. But you know, like just like feeling like you're here and you don't feel like you're from here because people say like, you know, could like say like you're from where are you from, or you know, you're Mexican, like go back to your country, whatever. And then I go over there and they're like, oh, mira este pocho. And it's like,
yeah.
What the fuck, you guys?
Where do I belong? Oh god. No, I can see that. And going back to what you were saying about Mexican people, because there's Mexican people with blonde hair, blue eyes, the Jalisco, that are just like totally like what the hell. And then there's people that have really indigenous features and they're brown and they're shorter and then there's that racism within just
there
Mexicans.
is.
It's crazy. It's really crazy.
Colorism,
yes.
I guess would.
And it's like, I mean, and it's hard sometimes because like we're here in the U.S. So then what does that conversation look like? So. Because I feel like sometimes when people talk about race, it's just black and white, but it's like there's so much more to it, and there's a lot of voices that are left out. Especially like thinking about Asian people, like Indian people, like Indian people are Asian, and then like knowing the difference between that and the difference between Samoan and Tongan, and like people not knowing perhaps enough about culture and being just culturally aware, that there's different things going on, and so it could be hard sometimes, like for people to connect, or I don't know where I was going with that. I'm just rambling. I'm just rambling now. But bringing it back to you are our guest, Mr. And bringing it back to your art. What is it that you hope to accomplish with your art?
I think a big thing, like I want to do is for people to try art, or to just express themselves in that medium. I think is important. Not give up, try things. I want to encourage others to do any type of art that they want to do. Like my siblings have like my brother has mentioned to me that early on he felt like, oh, he's the artist, so like like comparing himself to me, when it's like everyone's their own artist, and like have their own, should measure themselves like to be their very best, and like kind of like in their own thing. Financial stability would be great, switch from being from my corporate job.
It's possible, dude. There's so much money out there. You can get some of that money.
Dude, just sure. Like full on, like just art would be amazing. I think for me, especially, like art has always been like literally how I express myself. Like before, like especially like it was so hard to like just like tell you how I feel. I would not be able to do that, but I could draw some like abstract thing that is me pouring or letting that out, out and like it onto a painting, and then like maybe then I can talk to like people about it and stuff. So a lot of it's also like I feel like almost like therapy or a form of meditation. Yeah,
for sure. That's awesome. And I feel like people need to know that, because we were talking earlier about how like there's a lot of even within just like the Mexican community, there's a lot of like, I don't know what you would call it, like just antagonism against mental health and therapy and being able to like seek help if you need it. And I feel like there's a lot of, perhaps it's tied to machismo, or perhaps it's tied to like a lot of other things, but like, no, I don't need that. I'm fine. I'm gonna deal with it. And it's like sometimes you just need to be able to talk to somebody who's not in your life, but is a professional that knows how to handle the situation. The situations that you bring up that you need to talk about.
That's like something that like is new, definitely new in I would say people who are first generation. Like I mean like I said, at least for my parents, and like I would assume for other first gen parents that immigrated over here, like that wasn't in their world. Like like, oh, you're depressed, suck it up, like you need to survive. Like like
sometimes I don't know, I can't, I feel like my mom's so supportive, but I can't tell her some stuff because she's like so strong, And anybody could benefit from therapy, but like sometimes she's like, what? Like she doesn't get it. Like what and I can't sometimes
like,
explain
no
it.
Like, she's like, be like, no.
She's like, what? Like I don't understand. Like you're here, you're alive. Like thank God, and it's just like I don't know. But I feel like there's more stability now, right? Like there's a better place now, But I think that it is really important for people to find those avenues to be able to express themselves and to be able to have a space more than anything to speak your truth. Like whatever medium that comes in. For you, it's doing visual art, doing perhaps more acting in leisure, doing music. So being able to express yourself.
Definitely.
Yeah, dude.
And just like you said, like speaking my truth and living my truth. Like. It's not the same as it's the same to a lot of people, but it's not the same as like we were saying earlier. Like it's not like I'm not from East LA and like I am from the East Side, but not East LA. Like how they depict us in Hollywood and stuff like that. Like
ESSJ. That's a whole world.
Yeah.
What was it like growing up there?
Oh, it was crazy. Like opened my mind so much. Different people. Growing up, so my brother he got a scholarship to a private school, and he went to Bellarmine. So, and like in high school we got into partying. So, and that's kind of like also how we met people. We would party like from the east side to like Los Altos, and it was crazy to see like the whole spectrum of like different types of people. How the police treated the spectrum types of people, and how like the parties like would turn out or whatever. We were at like a more like a wealthy neighborhood, and like the police like came in, stopped the party. There was underage drinking. What they did is they sat everyone down, and they separated people who were over 21 and under 21, and they gave us a lecture. Versus like the east side, like when the cops would come, we would be hopping fences, we would be like running, like so like things like that like were like crazy.
And we were talking about the difference, like we were talking about police and how just this power imbalance, right? That police sometimes don't really, they're supposed to protect and serve, but it doesn't feel like that sometimes based on how they act, based on how they maneuver themselves. And sometimes, you don't feel safe just being able to, like if you do have an issue, going to a cop and being able to talk to him or her. Because there's this power imbalance, right? And it can feel sometimes very out of whack. And really weird.
And it's stressful, and it's, it's hard, and it's hard to deal with that, honestly. There's people who have like played the part. They play the part. Oh, hello officer, how you doing? Like you play the part, but it gets tiring. One of those times you might like you're irritated, you're tired of this shit, and then you say like a couple things that come off the wrong way to the officer. You'll get like, first of all, already be hostile and just like, go way like above like pushing his power to where he shouldn't push their power. So
for sure,
I think that happens a lot to people.
So con eso, we're going to take a short break. We'll come back with a little bit more, but short break. Thank you.
To do that pose. Are they your new trainers? What are those? Idiot gal, pick your nose and eat it gal. I am the realest gal. I am the realest gal. You ain't like Alicia. I'm a hurricane, and Katrina. English class didn't like the teacher, so I walked out like bye Felicia. Stay in school, kids. They don't show no appreciation. Keep things short like abbreviation. All these girls are really hit.
All right, people, welcome back to HayStack Mujer TV. We have CeazTheDay, Cesar Mendoza. Okay. And we were talking about, before we were talking, we ended off on, we were talking about police and, sometimes the different types of feelings you get and stuff like that. And it got me thinking about, what is an artist responsibility to perhaps social justice, to the movement, to the work, you know, because I think that art has a really interesting way of engaging people, right? Whether it be through visual art or through music or what have you. And so, you know, in what way do you feel like, you know, and you had mentioned before that you're down for your folks, right? And so, like, in what way do you feel like you do that, you know, through your art?
And that's actually something that another thing that has conflicted me, because I don't feel that I do that. Like, I don't, my art is not really, it's not art that's like geared towards justice. Like, my influences is like hip hop art, you know. I like to draw cartoons and things like that, you know. So it's definitely like not in that realm. So it's actually something that I've started like conversating with people about, and like, you know, is that like something that I should be doing? Is that me being true to myself and like my art? Is there other ways of doing that, you know? So as of now, I've just been like, you know, trying to connect with people who like just inspire me, and like, you know, want to see, like, I see like our grinding, you know, like anything I can do to help, you know, I'm open to it. But there's just like a lot of conversations happening right now, you know, about things, and so like, you know, like having this space is something that I can use, you know, like people want to do interviews here that can like talk about those like issues and stuff, you know. That's something I can do to help out, and you know, that's not necessarily directly like my art.
Yeah, totally. And I feel like there's different ways to be involved. Like, you don't have to be so outward and obvious about like, I'm standing for justice, you know.
Right.
It's also just you being a good person, you know, to other people, and opening up the resources that you do have to be able to give a step up for other people, you know, for them to do their art and for them to express themselves too. So that's good. I mean, you have your space, you have, you know, you're working on, is there anything in particular that you're working on right now in terms of projects?
Yes, thanks for asking. So Dario, myself, J.R. De La Cruz, I believe is his name, and Line Maker are artists that are going to be featured on First Fridays in San Jose. So that's this first Friday of next month. So Dario has a booth through the other artists. So Dario will have some of their art there, some of his art, and I will include some of my art there. So they will their art will be there, and their art is amazing. It's great, and like their art definitely like is more on like art that speaks like justice and things going on around the world. So, which is cool, because like their art also like can have some sort of like graffiti inspired as well, but also like more traditional things like I forget what it's called, but like you cut out a block and like you roll it on.
Oh, screen printing?
Not screen printing, but they'll have to check it out. First Friday, San Jose.
Dope. So is it gonna be it's gonna be a regular thing every month?
Yeah. Not for myself, but I think J.R. Della signed up to be there every month. So he showcases his art, and he has a studio in San Francisco. So I believe he'll be there every Friday, every first Friday of the month. Although this, I believe this coming up Friday, he's I don't know, doing something. He's not gonna be able to make it, but Dario's gonna showcase his art there. Yeah, sell what he can and whatnot. Yeah.
Cool. That's good. I mean, that's how you make it happen, collaborating with other people,
right?
Like-minded, and it's all good.
That's something that I'm trying to do, because like, you know, like I was telling you, like grew up more introverted. My brother like being more extroverted. So like I meet people mostly through my brother, or he's the one who has like maintained relationships. And now I'm just kind of like, okay, I need to get out there and like.
Dude, you're your own person. Yeah, totally. And I feel like you can do that with just being able to express yourself, right?
Yeah.
Through your art, I'm sure that you yourself are building your own community of like artists and people that you know and things like that, so that you can collaborate. I know, like, we were talking earlier about being able to, live off of your art, right? And so perhaps traveling is in those plans, right? Being able to showcase your art around the world. So is there anywhere in particular that you feel like, I want to go there, and like really be able to
that's something I haven't even, hasn't even crossed my mind really. I feel like it's that's something I maybe we should start visualizing.
Yeah, dude. Oh my God, visualization. I swear. I feel like for me, when I write stuff down, because I've been writing since I was very young, so and I didn't realize the power of writing. And then you look back on the things that you write, and then they've come true, or if you stay in the negative, it's like you stay in the negative. But then if you start wanting to move towards something different, it comes true, right? And so what you write, for me, comes true, right? So I think that's just part of the journey, right? Being able to find ways to really get to those goals that we have in our mind. And sometimes they might sound ludicrous because it's like no one in our family has done it, or it seems impossible, but it's totally doable once you say it out loud, perhaps, and break it down into actionable steps.
Break it down into
actionable steps, because you can do this shit. There's no reason why you can't, right?
That's a huge thing. That's really good advice for anybody out there.
Frida Kahlo did it. Any artist that's out there that is really well known, it's possible. It's just a matter of, I think right now I've been in the process of really trying to find my community and build it out, right? And so whether that means people in San Jose, people in Hayward, people everywhere, anybody that is willing to support me and the things that I'm trying to do, right? And so it really takes a certain type of someone that is really willing to push you forward. And because there are some people that you tell your dreams to or something, and they're just very they don't have goals of their own, so maybe they push you down a little bit. I've gotten that sense sometimes. So.
Or they're like, let's go watch a movie, or I don't know.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah, it just depends. I really want to be around folks that are really inspiring and doing different things and creating. I think that's a really huge part, and so I think that keeps things moving forward, right? Because there's a lot of, we're alive, it's August 26th, 7:03 p.m. and we could die
right now.
And we were having this conversation earlier,
right
we could die right now, later, or whatever, but it's I want to travel the world. There's no reason why I can't travel the world,
It's true.
Yeah, but anyways, so bringing it back to you, thank you so much for, offering your space, and for folks that are in San Jose, feel free to connect. I'm going to be linking, social media and things like that, and so feel free to connect with Cesar, because he does have this space, and you were saying that you want to be able to have it be a space where people could come in and just have it be a safe space, right? And so, what does that mean to you, having a safe space?
First of all, maybe I would say anybody can come here, age-wise too. If somebody wants to bring their kid, that's totally cool. We'll accommodate, for that. Not that it's not already accommodated, but and just really anybody can come and speak their mind and not be judged. I love conversations, simulating conversations. I like expanding my perspective. I like challenging people, their perspective. I play devil's advocate a lot, especially when I'm comfortable with people. I'll say the opposite.
It's a fun role.
Yeah, I'll say the opposite opinion, but I think it helps us hash out the holes in the argument, or really see other people's perspective. And I'm really big on understanding. If I can understand something, I feel that's peace of mind to me sometimes,
Yeah, for sure.
But really just getting people here, and you said, people who are doing vlogs or podcasts or whatever can come and interview these people, and I like to I kind of like picture myself like doing my art like on the side and like while this is happening, and I'm just like being inspired, like
live painting.
Yeah, like I love that, like just being inspired off of like conversations. So like that would like kind of like be cool, and then maybe I'll like step in the frame and like have something to say.
Hey, what's up, guys?
if I have something good to say, but like
that's dope, because that's definitely like, so anybody out there that does perhaps even like, you're giving me ideas, mister. That's good. Tight, because I mean the space is here, we're live, might as well like be creative and like be the people that we are, right, rather than feeling like we have to be restrained within certain confines, right? Like instead, let yourself be free and express yourself, like you were saying. Yeah. So con eso, I want to thank Cesar. Thank you so much for being here, for like opening up your space, right? And
thanks for coming all the way from Hayward.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I had come to visit my friend. I was like, okay, we need to make a stop, if possible, being able to like, because there's a lot of people here in San Jose. I mean, I lived here for 5 years, so I feel like this is my second home, so nice. It's really nice whenever I am here. It's very nice to be in the space, because it's nice, like it's like home, right? So pero con eso, thank you so much, dude, for like opening up your space, and hopefully we'll do more interviews as we all develop and grow, continuing to do more, get more of that story, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like I said this during one of my first interviews, but like I feel like we just scratched the surface. Like there's so much to us as human beings, so we could always share more about who we are. But con eso, thank you so much. Thank you, dude. Thank you.